and welcome to Keough's Korner. I am very fortunate to be here today with three students from Dover-Sherburne. We have Matt Galatano, who is a 12th grader here.
Yes.
Logan Lancaster, who's in 11th grade.
Yep.
And Elliot Nutra, who is a 12th grader. So thank you guys for joining me today. And this is where we basically spend time talking about the Dover-Sherburne schools. I love to hear what's working, what isn't working, but I also like to answer your questions. So we have some already developed, which is fine, but if any come up along the way, you should feel free to just jump in. I'm an open book.
All right.
So let's start with you, Matt. What did you want to ask me?
Well, on the topic of school parking, we were told that the money paid for these parking spaces goes to this general fund that is kind of mysterious. And does that revenue directly impact the students in paying for other services they use, or is it used to plow and maintaining the lots?
So yeah, something about general funds really makes people nervous, huh? But and I have to admit, when my three daughters came through here, I had my questions too. But because you do pay a lot of money to park. Actually, it's not unusual what Dover-Sherburne does, and how much are you guys paying right now?
$300.
$300. So I believe when I was in Wellesley, it was $500 a semester.
Oh, really?
But if it wasn't a semester, it was $500 a year, whichever. That's a lot.
Yeah.
And like Wellesley, we do the same kind of thing, which is in fact a general fund, which basically means it goes for paying for the things that that we need to run the schools. So you name it. If we need to, it's usually not like capital items. Capital items would be like furniture, equipment, the building.
Yeah.
Stuff like that, though, could be a possible use of the funds. It might be something more like just offsetting costs. Say we have to add a teacher. Typically, we don't like to. It's basically baked into the whole budget. So when you build a school budget, you have to think, okay, this money has to be there the following year, right? So if I have hired a teacher, I can't just use these one-time dollars to pay for that teacher, because what am I going to use to pay for them next year? So you have to have money built into the budget year-round. So we can't totally bank on the parking because we don't know how much the kids are going to use, but we pretty much have a sense. So it can be applied towards general fund, which might include staffing or items. But there's no sneaky shoebox in the back office that it's like, we get the kids' money.
Yeah.
It's not like that. This is a pretty honest place.
No side vacation fund.
No way. No. It's you guys have to remember, and people do at home as well. We don't have business in Dover and in Sherburne. We rely strictly on a residential tax base. So we're not like Natick. The Natick Mall probably contributes a lot of money to the town of Natick, or all those businesses on Route 9 to Natick and to Framingham. We don't have that. So, in Dover you have Dunkin' Donuts and the Dover Deli, and in Sherburne you have C&L, and the Sherburne, Apothecary or Eaton Apothecary or whatever it's called at this point. It's always changing, but we rely very much on the tax base. So any money that we can squeak out and have been able to squeak out through the years to offset our costs, we do, because we try to hire the best possible teachers, and we try to compete with the highest performing school systems, and so it's expensive. So that's pretty much my explanation for that. Good question, though.
Speaking of competition, what does a successful student at DS look like for you?
So competition.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great question, Logan. So, I mean, it's a really tough thing to define, right? We want basically all of our kids to be able to go out into the world and compete successfully, be able to stand on their own 2 feet, be strong, be resilient, be able to handle rejection or failure, because it comes to all of us sooner or later. We want our kids to be articulate, smart, thoughtful, decent. That's high on my list. You hear that a lot. If you're listening to me, I care about the way we treat each other. This hashtag #WeAreDS is sounds corny, I know, but the whole point is to say from these two towns we're one system, and as one system we are kind of together, and we kind of push those messages. So the successful student has kind of all those qualities, not just 9 or 10 AP classes, because if that's the mark of a successful student, then only one of my children was successful. I have 3 kids. One took a lot of AP classes, did very well. The other took some AP classes, did very well. One didn't take any AP classes and is doing fine. So, the successful student is much more than just their academic achievement. It's really about the complete person. I personally put a lot of weight on how a person treats other people. To me, that's the ultimately successful student. That's the mark that we really reach the people. So, but what would you say, Logan? Because that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I mean,
What do you think is a successful student at Dover Sherburne?
I think someone that cares about school and cares about not necessarily getting good grades, but caring of their effort, I guess. And if they're doing their best and they're not getting good grades, maybe it's just they're not understanding it well. Maybe that they can do something different. But yeah, that's my opinion. And
What do you think, Matt?
Well, I mean, I think in this day and age, they reduce us a lot down to a number. So I think you got to try and separate yourself from that by, being a caring person towards others and trying to make as many connections with everyone, especially teachers. I mean, the better you work with them, I think it'll help your understanding. Yeah.
There's a lot to it, isn't there? What do you think?
I think a successful student is one that really puts their best effort into it, because regardless of whether they get that desired number or not, you're always going to take away something if you put your best into it.
Well, it's interesting. I had this conversation with a gentleman from Harvard Graduate School of Education named Rick Weisbord, and he did this study called, I think it was called The Rising Tide. So you could Google it, but it was really what he was trying to do is get colleges to consider something other than just the scores and grades when they factor in who should get into their schools. And we had this great conversation. He was like, wouldn't it be cool if we could kind of come up with some measure that allows you to identify those kids who just kind of do the right thing all the time? They may not be great students, but they seem to do the right thing all the time, and all the kids know who they are. I said, that would be really cool if we could identify that, because that would count for a lot, wouldn't it?
yeah.
I mean, I think the colleges are really interested in finding those kids, but the only mechanism they have in place to find them is recommendation letters and their transcripts and their scores. So, I think other people are thinking about how we define a successful student. We are doing something right now called a portrait of a graduate, and we're trying to kind of identify what are the traits that we want our kids to have when they leave. And it's not just about their attainment of material. There's much more to life than that. That's for sure. So, awesome question. Very good. What else you got? Do you have something, Elliot?
Yes. So I was curious about what new work was done for the school over the summer.
Yeah, so, well, hopefully you noticed we did some work on the floors in the kind of the classroom wing down near the courtyard. So all those floors were replaced, and it seems like kind of a simple thing, but it's actually really important. What they're making now are a new flooring material that doesn't require all that wax. So you know how our floors, like these floors in here, get waxed. You can see they're shiny and they get waxed. That wax over years builds up. It has to be stripped off with this chemical agent and tons of man hours scrubbing and taking that wax off.
It's expensive, isn't it?
Very expensive in hours, in labor. So the new flooring that we put down over there actually wears really well. it doesn't wear down, lasts a long time, and it doesn't need any wax. And you can clean it with one of those machines, the writing machines that they write over, and it just cleans it with basically a water solution. Awesome stuff. So we're pretty psyched about that. We actually, well, I hope you've seen some of the flexible seating and the different classroom setups.
Yeah.
Any of you have classes in there?
Mr.
Yeah.
Birdie,
And Mr. Califano.
Right, and also Miss Newton.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
She in her room too.
I like that
Yeah,
a
what's
lot
that one?
because I think every student can relate to over the course of the year getting a little bit more and more of a tight back just because of the desks. Desks
Yeah.
are really really frustrating,
Mhm.
especially when it's hard to get around the class in them as well. They're very clumsy and in the way.
So that is something that we're talking about, like being innovative, and it can be really insulting to people who have. I mean, this is a very successful school, so to suggest that Dover Sherburne needs to innovate in any way can be really insulting. So we have to tread carefully. But we do say to the staff and to the administration, what are things that we could do differently that we think might benefit the kids? And this idea of flexible seating, which is research based, and any of you who have parents working in industry know this, that they're actually doing this in offices. So my daughter just took a job for some company in Boston, and I'll just leave their name out of it, but they do have this flexible seating. It's just kind of the way offices are set up today. And so we are trying to prepare you guys in terms of student success for the real world. And so you'll see more of that. But what I really like about it is I think it says to the kids, we appreciate that we ask a lot of you, and we want you to be comfortable when you're trying to learn. So I was psyched about that. We're retrofitting a lot of our lights to LED so that they are much more efficient. So it seemed a little brighter in the lobbies. Did you notice that outside the cafeteria? I mean, outside of the library?
A little
Tell
bit.
me the truth, because if you didn't, that's absolutely fine.
I don't
I
think
couldn't
I
tell you,
noticed.
Yeah.
but that's I don't know. I feel like
Well,
I could have
how often
noticed
did you
it.
used to have to change them?
Well, you have to change them. I don't know. I don't know the answer to
Did it
that.
happen
Probably
to-
every couple of years, but these things last a long time, and they're low energy. So they're green. They strike me as a little brighter, but I'm not sure.
Did the change happen over the summer? Or
Some
is
of
it-
that happened
okay.
over the summer and has been ongoing, and we've
Okay.
been doing a lot in the middle school too. So that's one of the kind of, I think about the region. That's some of the things. But when I noticed you guys wanted to know kind of how we pick these projects, and there's really a process. We have a 20-year plan, believe it or not, for our buildings. So we know exactly when our roofs went on and how long they last. Does anyone want to guess how long they've been on?
20 years.
Anyone else?
That was pretty good.
19.
Oh.
I think we're at 19. It might be 18.
So we're
But
about to get new roofs.
excellent.
Wow.
Ooh.
Well, we won't be here.
I love these DS
That's
kids. They
right.
get
Good.
it.
That
Solar
was-
roofs, right? Solar roofs, definitely.
Solar panels.
Wait, Elliot.
Yeah.
This guy. How'd you know that?
Are they actually?
No. Well, here's the thing.
No, it is.
Here-
Good.
here-
I'm
so
here's
excited.
now you know what the superintendent's thinking. We
Yeah.
are in fact in line to have our roofs replaced, both the middle school and high school, and because of the age.
It's a fly.
They are
Yeah.
as long as it's not a mosquito.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we are in line to have our roofs replaced, and I do seriously hope that we can look into solar once those get done. But
Yeah.
so
Trampoline roofs too.
Oh, that'd be cool.
So
now you're
a
getting
lot
carried
easier
away.
to get it out between the two buildings.
All right, we're getting out of the box. I like it.
Good idea.
So, well, we'll see about that, but definitely would love to see if we could do some solar. So, any other questions on?
I
Yes.
have a question.
Mhm.
So I understand like a lot of kids will actually like resort to using the bathroom when they get home rather than using it in the school. And I definitely think one of the reasons because of that, or one of the reasons because of that, or
For
causing
that.
yeah, it's just like because a lot of times the bathrooms can sometimes be very inconvenient. Like I know a number of bathrooms in the high school have like some of them don't have locks in the stalls. I
Yeah.
know in the boys' bathrooms at least, and
Yeah. The science wing.
the science wing
Yeah,
doesn't
doesn't-
have a lock. I think the bathroom in the boys like
Is it a math one?
varsity like soccer locker room.
Oh, yeah,
Is
that
a
one.
bathroom?
Team room, yeah.
Doesn't have
A
Or
lock.
bathroom
Uh,
lock.
a
Lock. Sorry.
Yeah.
So-
And I know like a
Those
lot of the
times.
soap dispensers just won't work.
Yes,
which
I've
is very,
noticed that,
very
too.
annoying. That's
Like
the
they'll be
worst.
full, but they don't work.
And my biggest complaint has to be the quality of the toilet paper. Now I understand, like, obviously a school should definitely aim to save money with toilet paper, but I think we should need to have a base standard of having toilet paper that can withstand the pull of someone.
Yeah.
That is the most frustrating thing.
Well, I
It also makes a mess for the
It's so
janitor.
interesting you should say that, because I did hear on the radio one morning coming in, they were asking their listeners a question, and it was, would you rather part with your cell phone for a week or your
Oh,
two-ply toilet paper?
Oh God.
Yeah, definitely cell phone.
Cell phone. Cell phone.
All right, well, that's good to know. Honestly, and it is good to know. I literally did not know that there were locks missing from the stalls, so that's something I can look into. Or soap dispensers not working, and the TP quality.
Oh, great.
That might have to do with the fact that, because as I said, it's an expensive operation. We do try to not be wasteful.
Yeah.
So that is important. I personally do not like to waste money, but that's a valid point. Like if it's really beneath an acceptable standard, then we can look into that. So I'm glad you told me. The other thing is that we frequently buy in bulk. So like you're looking at it, and it's like if you're going to buy boxes and boxes, and it's going to be 5,000 versus 2,500, you might go with the cheaper stuff. But then
Yeah.
the people on the receiving end don't really like it.
We need a 20-year plan for toilet paper.
Excellent. We'll roll it out. No pun intended. So,
It's funny too, guys.
so along those lines, by the way, so that 20-year plan, I didn't really finish my thinking. It goes to, the two towns have capital groups that look at capital projects for.
My dad's on the advisory board for Sherburne.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. Yes, he
My
is.
grandmother's
Peter.
on Forest and Trail.
Yeah.
Ellie,
So-
your grandmother does everything
Yeah,
for
I know.
Sherburne.
She does more than that, but we
does.
don't need to talk about politics right
No,
now.
no, but service is good. They're good people. They'd be good Dover Sherburne students.
Yeah.
We're talking
Yeah.
about successful
Yeah.
students. But they do look at our costs and help us to decide which projects are going to move forward and which ones are not. And sometimes we'll bump things down a year because it might look like it's not that bad. It doesn't need to be replaced yet. So that's kind of how that works. So,
Ooh, one more thing.
Yeah.
One more thing.
yeah.
This is obviously like a huge project, but I was curious about the potential of having a turf practice fields, because I know for example football, I know we have to practice in a backfield next to the middle school, and it's it's fine, it's a field, but it's the most uneven surface. It turns into dust. In about what would you say, like 3
Like-
weeks? It's a dust field.
Yeah.
Really?
It's
You're talking about the practice football
Yeah.
field?
Yeah, you can sprain your ankle in it pretty
Yeah.
easily.
By October, it's usually just like gone.
So there has been talk of parents basically organizing to do kind of renovation of some of our athletic facilities, outdoor athletic facilities, and right at the moment, I don't know exactly where that is, but included in that conversation was a discussion of another turf field. The problem with turf fields is that they cost a lot to replace and they have a limited shelf life. But I am also cognizant of the fact that when we change our start times, we are definitely going to need more lighted spaces, and I would imagine if we're going to light something up, we might want it to be turf because it's going to get a lot of use. Something in addition to our current field. I don't know if we can get all of our sports to operate on that field in the dark, so I think we're going to need more field space. I think we're going to need more lights, and so unfortunately what you'll find with schools or towns is things take a long time to change, and I can tell you that from experience, having grown up here and gone through Dover Sherburne, sitting in the same building that I came to as a kid. Some things don't change all that quick.
Yeah.
And but it's on my mind as something that's really important.
How
So-
old is the turf?
The turf now is I think we're coming up on like 8 years,
And what's the usual?
10,
Oh,
and so that's expensive to replace. So that could conceivably be a capital item. And so the towns, they have all these expenses and it's like, how do you make all this work? And that's why we That's why we actually put that money into the general fund. It offsets all those costs. Basically, you guys are contributing to running this school. That's really what it boils down to.
We have the power, guys.
Mm-hmm.
You do have a lot more power than you think. I think you have a ton of power. I did my dissertation on student voice because I believe that kids have a lot to say, and we just have to listen to them. So there was one thing I wanted to ask you guys before we run out of time. So what do you think of the change to the DR rule in the morning, especially for you? Does it impact you?
Oh yeah, it's awesome. This morning I used my DR pretty well. In the morning I slept in and I got all my homework done. It
Nice.
was really nice. I got to play with my dog before I went to school.
Did you feel a little more relaxed
I
coming in?
felt so relaxed. I mean,
Nice.
was
Does
awesome.
it does it make a difference? Do you think kids are saying it makes a difference? I know some of the
Yeah.
seniors don't like it because they would have gotten it anyhow, right? But for the
Yeah.
underclassmen, Logan, do you think it's making a difference?
Yeah, everyone's really excited for it.
And are
especially-
kids finding ways to get here?
Yeah, it's usually like if like underclassmen that don't have a car, and if they don't have like a parent to drive them, they'll just take the bus. Like it doesn't really change it, but especially if it's like an upperclassman, like a junior who can drive, it's a lot better.
So it'd be nice if the juniors were nice enough to take care of those younger kids, right? And give them a ride like the teachers
Yeah.
used to give me rides to school and not charge them.
Yeah.
What I did notice about the morning routine though is, I don't know what it is, but you guys probably noticed this too, especially it's really for Sherborne kids. Coming to
much
school,
more
the traffic is doubled in
This
the morning.
year,
It is
yeah.
crazy. I've actually found it pretty difficult to get to school on time when I leave, like at around 7, and I live like fairly close to the school. And yeah, that's been difficult. I think I've had a couple tardies due to the traffic.
The traffic is a big problem. It's a huge problem. And you know what's happened is everyone has Google Maps or Waze. And
Yeah.
so think about it, all the commuters are going where?
In Boston.
They're going to Boston, and they're looking for the fastest route. They don't want to go through downtown Sherburne. Why?
One light.
One light, a train, I mean,
Oh, the train.
it really backs up. So they're looking for any alternative route into Boston. And now they have these mechanisms to do that. And I've noticed coming out of Kingsbury in the morning that there's a ton of traffic coming down that road over from Millis and Medway, getting off of 109 somewhere and cutting through and then going down Harding Street, which is the road that leads up to the front of Dover Sherburne. So you've got those commuters, you've got all the parents going into the circle to drop off. They get blocked by all the commuters, and then they get to that stop sign and they can't go because there's traffic coming down Farm Street.
Yeah.
So it becomes gridlock, and that's just been a nightmare. And then Bridge Street is Bridge Street's really tough, and that's been tough since I was a
Paving
kid.
it too with the loose stone, like
Yeah, in Sherburne, and only in the Sherburne part.
yeah.
So we're pretty much out of time. Do you guys have anything else?
Well, my last one was just gonna be, what do you like to do when to step away from the job and relax? What is something you enjoy?
Well, I love my time. I love my dogs. Sometimes we'll walk the dogs over at Medfield State. I go down to a place called Mattapoisett in the summer, and I have a boat down there, and it's small, but it's a blast. And there's something about driving there and getting away from it all. Kind of feels like it just melts away. So it's really therapeutic. So I go there all the way into October. So it means I'm not around as much on fall weekends, but I'm taking care of myself. It's important.
Number one.
All right. Well, very good. Nice being with you guys.
Thank you.
Until
Thank
next
you.
time, have a good one.